In this war, logistics wins and logistics kills. The most powerful tank in the world is a steel coffin without fuel. The most accurate artillery piece is a paperweight without shells. The most motivated infantry squad is a group of men with empty rifles without ammunition resupply. Every army in history has understood this truth, and every army in history has struggled to protect the thin, vulnerable lifeline that connects its fighting units to the factories, depots, and supply bases that keep them alive. In the war in Ukraine, that lifeline has become Russia's greatest vulnerability. A network of roads, trucks, fuel tankers, and ammunition carriers that stretches hundreds of kilometers from Russian territory through occupied Ukraine to the front line, exposed at every point to Ukrainian interdiction. For most of the war, the deepest threat to Russian logistics came from long-range missiles and artillery, weapons that could reach perhaps 20 to 30 kilometers behind the contact line. Russian supply convoys adapted by moving at night, using multiple routes, dispersing loads across smaller vehicles, and pushing their main logistics hubs further to the rear. The calculus was simple: stay far enough behind the front, and Ukrainian weapons cannot reach you. Days ago, Ukrainian drone operators shattered that calculus. In what Ukrainian military sources described as one of the longest FPV drone strike missions of the war, Ukrainian operators flew attack drones approximately 60 kilometers behind the front line, using relay stations and advanced guidance systems to locate and destroy a Russian supply convoy on a road deep in occupied territory where the enemy believed it was completely beyond the reach of Ukrainian precision weapons. The convoy, 14 vehicles carrying fuel, ammunition, spare parts, and supplies, was methodically destroyed over the course of approximately 45 minutes. The Russian soldiers on the front line who were waiting for that fuel and ammunition never received it, and the logistics network that Russian commanders had carefully built to supply an entire sector of the front was disrupted for more than a week. This is how Ukraine is learning to reach deeper, strike further, and strangle the Russian war machine at its source. The technology that made this strike possible represents one of the most significant tactical innovations of the war. Standard FPV drones have an operational range of approximately 5 to 15 kilometers, limited by their battery capacity and the radio link between the drone and its operator. Beyond that range, the signal degrades, the operator loses control, and the drone is lost. For most of the war, this range limitation confined FPV drone operations to the immediate front line and the first few kilometers behind it. Ukrainian engineers have been working for months to overcome this limitation. The solution involves two key innovations: relay stations and fiber-optic control links. Relay stations are small, portable devices positioned between the operator and the target area that receive the drone's control signal, amplify it, and retransmit it to the drone, effectively extending the operational range by chaining multiple relay points together. Some Ukrainian units have developed relay drones, unmanned aircraft that fly at altitude between the operator and the strike drone, serving as airborne relay stations that can extend range to 50, 60, or even 80 kilometers. Fiber-optic control links, thin, lightweight fiber-optic cables that unspool from the drone during flight, provide a physical data connection between the operator and the drone that is virtually immune to electronic warfare jamming, the primary Russian defense against FPV drones. These fiber-optic drones sacrifice some agility and speed for the ability to operate in the most heavily jammed environments without losing control signal. The strike on the Russian convoy used a combination of both technologies. Ukrainian drone operators launched their attack drones from a concealed position well behind their own lines, a position that would be impossible for Russian counter-battery fire to target because of its distance from the front. The drones flew a pre-planned route at low altitude, guided through relay stations positioned at intervals across Ukrainian-controlled territory and into the airspace above occupied land. The operators controlled the drones in real time, seeing through their onboard cameras exactly as if they were 5 kilometers away rather than 60. The convoy was identified by a Ukrainian reconnaissance drone that had been conducting long-range surveillance of Russian logistics routes in the sector. The reconnaissance team had been monitoring this particular road for several days, noting the timing and composition of Russian supply convoys that used it regularly. The road was a secondary route, not a major highway, but a paved two-lane road that Russian logistics units had been using because the primary supply routes had been interdicted by Ukrainian artillery and shorter-range drone strikes. Russian commanders had shifted their supply traffic to this deeper road precisely because they believed it was beyond the range of Ukrainian precision weapons. The convoy that was targeted consisted of 14 vehicles moving in a loose column at night with headlights on, a detail that Ukrainian drone operators noted with grim satisfaction. The vehicles were not blacked out, not dispersed, not following tactical movement procedures. They were driving as if on a peacetime road march, confident in their safety, complacent in their distance from the front. The convoy included 3 fuel tankers carrying diesel for armored vehicles and generators, 4 ammunition trucks loaded with artillery shells and mortar rounds, 2 trucks carrying vehicle spare parts and maintenance equipment, 3 trucks with general supplies, food, medical equipment, construction materials for fortifications, and 2 escort vehicles with light machine guns mounted on their cabs. The Ukrainian strike began at approximately 02:15 local time. The first FPV drone descended on the lead vehicle, a fuel tanker, and struck it on the cab roof. The shaped charge penetrated the thin metal and detonated inside, killing the driver instantly and igniting the diesel fuel. The tanker erupted in a fireball that illuminated the entire road for hundreds of meters. The vehicles behind it slammed on their brakes. Drivers leaned forward, trying to understand what had happened. In those first seconds of confusion, a second drone hit the last vehicle in the convoy, one of the escort trucks at the rear. The strike disabled the vehicle and blocked the road behind the convoy. Classic ambush doctrine: kill the head, kill the tail, trap the body. What followed was a systematic destruction of the trapped convoy that lasted approximately 45 minutes. Ukrainian drone operators worked in rotation, with fresh drones being launched from the rear and flown through the relay network to replace those that had struck their targets. Each drone was guided by an operator who could see the convoy in real time through the drone's onboard camera, the burning fuel tanker providing enough light to make every vehicle clearly visible. The second fuel tanker was hit 4 minutes after the first. Its explosion was even larger. The blast wave shattered windows in a nearby abandoned building and sent a mushroom of black smoke rising into the night sky. Russian soldiers who had dismounted from the trucks and were running in the darkness were silhouetted against the firelight, visible to drone cameras. The ammunition trucks were targeted next. The first ammunition truck was hit by a drone that struck the cargo bed directly, detonating among crates of 100 PBU artillery shells. The secondary explosion was enormous, a chain reaction of detonating shells that lasted nearly a minute, sending shrapnel and burning debris hundreds of meters in every direction. The blast destroyed a second ammunition truck that was parked less than 30 meters ahead, triggering its cargo as well. The double explosion left a crater in the road and scattered the remains of both trucks across an area the size of a football field. One by one, the remaining vehicles were struck. The third fuel tanker, which had been at the center of the convoy, attempted to pull off the road onto a dirt track leading toward a cluster of farm buildings. The driver nearly made it. The drone caught the tanker as it turned, striking the rear of the cargo tank. The diesel did not explode immediately. Instead, it began leaking from the puncture, forming a river of fuel on the frozen road that then ignited from the heat of the drone's detonation. The fire spread back to the tanker, which erupted 30 seconds later in a rolling fireball that engulfed the farm track and the buildings beside it. Some Russian drivers attempted to flee, pulling off the road and driving into the fields alongside it. But the frozen, muddy terrain trapped their vehicles within meters, wheels spinning in ground that was just soft enough beneath the frozen crust to swallow tires and immobilize axles. Their headlights, which they were too panicked to turn off, made them beacons for drone cameras. A spare parts truck that drove into a ditch was struck as its 2-man crew abandoned it and attempted to flee on foot across the field. They ran less than 50 meters before a second drone found them, its operator tracking their thermal signatures as they stumbled through the darkness. A supply truck that managed to turn around and drive approximately 200 meters back down the road was hit by a drone that dove through its windshield at a steep angle, detonating inside the cab and killing the driver. The truck veered off the road, rolled onto its side, and burned. The escort vehicles, which should have been the convoy's defense, proved utterly helpless against a threat they could neither see nor hear. The light machine guns mounted on their cabs were designed to engage threats on the ground. Ambushes from tree lines, attacks from roadside positions. They were useless against small drones approaching from above in the darkness at speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour. One escort vehicle was destroyed by a direct hit to its engine block. The crew of the second escort vehicle abandoned their truck and hid in a drainage culvert beside the road, where Ukrainian drone operators tracked their thermal signatures but chose not to expend a drone on them. They would spend the rest of the night lying in freezing water, listening to the convoy burn. By Euro 3 ratio, all 14 of the convoy's vehicles were destroyed or burning. The road was impassable, blocked by craters from ammunition detonations, twisted burning wreckage, and unexploded ordnance scattered across the asphalt and the fields on either side. Russian recovery and engineering teams would not reach the site until nearly 10 hours later, finding a scene of devastation stretching nearly a kilometer along the road. The road itself would remain unusable for more than 3 days while engineers cleared debris, filled craters, and swept for unexploded ordnance. 3 days during which all supply traffic for the sector had to be rerouted through even longer and more exposed alternative routes. Economic analysis. 3 fuel tankers destroyed, each carrying approximately 10,000–15,000 liters of diesel fuel at current wartime prices of approximately $152 per liter. Cargo value of $45,000–$90,000 per tanker. Vehicle cost, approximately $80,000–$120,000 each. Total fuel tanker losses, $375,630,000. 4 ammunition trucks destroyed. Cargo value is the critical component. Each truck carried enough 152mm artillery shells to supply a battery for several days, estimated at 200–400 rounds per truck at $500–$2,000 per round depending on type. Cargo value, $400,000, $3.2 million total. Vehicle cost, approximately $200,000, $400,000 total. Total ammunition losses, $600,000, $3.6 million. 2 spare parts trucks, carrying engine components, track links, optics, communications equipment, and other items essential for maintaining armored vehicles at the front. Replacement value, $300,000, $800,000, including cargo. 3 general supply trucks and 2 escort vehicles, approximately $400, $701, including cargo. Total direct material losses, approximately $1.75 million. Personnel losses. The convoy was manned by approximately 25 to 35 Russian soldiers, drivers, co-drivers, escort troops, and logistics personnel. Ukrainian forces estimated that between 15 and 20 were killed in the strikes and resulting fires and explosions. An unknown number were wounded. Several were observed on drone cameras fleeing into the surrounding fields in darkness. Their fate unknown, though surviving a winter night in occupied territory with no vehicle, no communications, and potentially burn injuries from exploding fuel, is itself a life-threatening proposition. Russian intercepted communications the following morning revealed frantic efforts to account for convoy personnel, suggesting that a significant number remained missing more than 12 hours after the attack. But the operational impact dwarfs the material cost. The fuel in those tankers was destined for armored units on the front line, tanks, BMPs, and self-propelled artillery that cannot move without diesel. Without that fuel delivery, Russian armored operations in the sector were visibly reduced for more than a week. The ammunition that was destroyed represented days of fire for Russian artillery batteries that went silent, while replacement stocks were rerouted through longer, more vulnerable supply chains. The spare parts that burned were needed to repair damaged vehicles that now sat idle in maintenance areas, unable to return to combat. Ukrainian forces in the sector reported a measurable decrease in Russian activity. Fewer artillery barrages, fewer armored patrols, fewer infantry assaults in the days following the convoy's destruction. The front line, for a brief window, became quieter, and that quiet was purchased by drone operators sitting in a bunker 60 kilometers away, flying machines that cost $500 each against trucks carrying cargo worth hundreds of thousands. Strategic implications. This strike represents a fundamental expansion of the threat envelope that Russian logistics must now operate within. an expansion that reshapes the entire calculus of supply and survival for Russian forces on the front line. Previously, Russian supply convoys could achieve relative safety by staying more than 20 to 30 kilometers behind the front line, beyond the range of standard Ukrainian FPV drones and most artillery systems. Drivers on rear area roads could relax, turn on headlights, drive in formation, and operate on something approaching a peacetime footing. That era is over. This single engagement moved the safety threshold to 60 kilometers or more and demonstrated that Ukrainian drone technology is capable of precision strikes at distances that were previously the exclusive domain of cruise missiles and ballistic weapons costing millions of dollars each. A $500 drone, guided through relay stations by an operator sitting in a bunker, achieved the same tactical effect against a supply convoy that would have required a $2 million cruise missile just 2 years ago. The cost asymmetry is staggering, and it is getting worse for Russia with every month that Ukrainian engineers refine their systems. The implications cascade through every level of the Russian supply system. Convoys that once drove confidently on roads 30 or 40 kilometers behind the front must now assume they can be targeted at any moment. This means slower speeds to reduce thermal and acoustic signatures, more dispersed convoys that spread the same cargo across more vehicles on more routes, longer and more circuitous paths to avoid known Ukrainian drone corridors, more frequent stops to scan for drone activity, greater fuel consumption from longer routes, and more vehicles and drivers needed to deliver the same quantity of supplies. Every additional precaution adds time, cost, and complexity to a logistics system that is already strained to its absolute limits by international sanctions, vehicle shortages, driver attrition, and the insatiable appetite of a front line that consumes ammunition and fuel faster than Russia can produce and transport them. Russian electronic warfare, which has been moderately effective against standard radio-linked FPV drones, forcing Ukrainian operators into a constant cycle of frequency adaptation, is far less effective against fiber-optic guided drones that do not rely on radio signals at all. The thin fiber-optic cable that trails behind the drone provides a physical data link that cannot be jammed, cannot be spoofed, and cannot be detected by Russian EW systems scanning for radio emissions. This technological arms race is tilting decisively in Ukraine's favor, as each Ukrainian innovation forces Russia to invest in countermeasures that arrive too late and are immediately rendered obsolete by the next generation of Ukrainian engineering. The Ukrainian innovators, the engineers who developed the relay systems and fiber-optic guidance that made this strike possible, are fighting this war with soldering irons and circuit boards as much as with rifles and grenades. They work in workshops and laboratories, often civilian volunteers or former tech industry professionals who brought their skills to the defense of their country. Their innovations, developed rapidly, tested in combat, and iterated based on real-world results, have transformed FPV drones from short-range tactical weapons into strategic strike platforms capable of reaching targets that were previously safe from anything short of cruise missiles. The drone operators who flew this mission demonstrated extraordinary skill, controlling a drone through a 60-kilometer relay chain while maintaining enough precision to hit individual vehicles. The mental demands of flying through relay stations, dealing with latency, signal transitions, and the disorientation of controlling a remote aircraft through a chain of intermediary links are immense. These operators train for weeks on this specific mission profile before executing it in combat. Russia's logistics arteries are no longer safe at any distance. The 60-kilometer strike of today will be the 80-kilometer strike of tomorrow and the 100-kilometer strike of next month. Ukrainian engineers are already working on the next generation of extended-range systems, and every kilometer of additional reach is another kilometer of Russian supply road that becomes a hunting ground. Ukraine fights, Ukraine innovates, Ukraine reaches further. This is Iron Front. The battlefield speaks louder than propaganda.